Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly Wildcard draft for Game Week 14, where I try to select what I think is the best squad to have in Fantasy Premier League going forward in the next 4 to 5 game weeks and beyond. And this is basically just a wildcard draft for the number one pick is going to be the player that I deem the most important player to have currently in FPL. And then the 15th pick is going to be the final part of my squad and the final player, which is going to be a player that I'm not so sure about having in my squad, I guess. But yeah, you'll see as we go along. So let's start with the number one draft pick this week, and that is going to be Mohamed Salah, as it has been for the past 4 or 5 game weeks, I think. Salah has fantastic fixtures. He just keeps delivering every single game, keeps getting a point return here and there. Even against City, he got an assist towards the end. So Salah is just basically undeniable. I think he's the best captain's option for the next 2 game weeks by itself as well. So I think he just is the clear-cut number one still. I think there is sort of a discussion who is the more important player to have, but I think Salah is slightly more important than the number 2 pick, which is Erling Haaland, and that's mostly down to Salah's fixtures just being a bit better. To be fair though, Haaland could score a lot of goals in the next game at home to Spurs, and Spurs is really there for the taking, so it is actually a pretty close call in terms of captaincy. I still think Salah is probably the better captain because you never know what Spurs is going to do in these types of games. But what we've seen from Spurs so far this season, conceding 4 goals against Chelsea, conceding 2 goals against Arsenal, should have conceded a couple goals against Liverpool as well, if not for some VAR decisions and stuff. There is a case to be made for Haaland to be your captain. So Salah and Haaland, I think it's between those two for captaincy this week, and I think those two are the best picks to have as well. As you can see from Haaland, he has even better fixtures coming up from Game Week 16 onwards, playing against Luton and then Crystal Palace at home. 2 really good fixtures for Haaland after playing Aston Villa away, which is sorta not the best, but still not the worst either. So I think Haaland has really good fixtures. He is in really good form right now. Just scored in the Champions League just before I started filming as well. So Haaland is looking really good. And yeah, Salah and Haaland, they are basically just mainstays in FPL at this point. Salah is going to be a discussion when we come to around Game Week 20. He's going to be going to the African Cup of Nations, so you probably downgrade Salah at some point there. But that's probably also around the time where Kevin De Bruyne is back for Man City. So could just be an easy swap right there when that time comes. But for now, Salah, Haaland, I think are the 2 undisputed kings in FPL. And those are the 2 first picks in the weekly wildcard draft as well. Number 3, we have Bryan Mbeumo, who was also number 3 last week. He's just a really good pick. He has really good underlying numbers. He's on penalties. He plays 90 minutes. He has really good fixtures. Everything is really going in the way of Mbeumo currently, and also by the fact that most of the players that are the same price bracket as Mbeumo have not been performed well lately. Mitoma got injured, has struggled a bit. Diaby was subbed off at the half last time around. I'm looking to sell him personally as well. There are a couple, Eze got injured. There are a couple of really not so well performing 6.5 around that million players. And Mbeumo now is 7.0 million, but he's still fantastic value for that price. He's going to be the talisman for Brentford, and he's going to be a really good player to have in the next few game weeks as well. So I think Mbeumo makes a lot of sense. He has a blank game week in Game Week 18, which is the 5th game that you can't see on the screen right here. But he also probably gets a double game week in Game Week 20, so it's worth it to have him in the squad and just bench him for a Game Week 18 and just have him for the double in Game Week 20 before you potentially sell him as well before the African Cup of Nations. So Mbeumo, again, just a simple pick. I think he is the midfielder to get this week if you're looking for a new midfielder. I'm probably going to get him myself. Selling Diaby to get Mbeumo just makes a lot of sense. I already regret selling Mbeumo a couple weeks back. I think 4 or 5 game weeks back now. I sold Mbeumo and I've regretted it ever since because I really want him back. He's also a really good pick. Number 4 is also going to stay the same from last week, and that is still going to be Gabriel Magalhaes. He had a clean sheet finally this time around in the past game week. Arsenal's defense is just looking fantastic. Gabriel is also significantly cheaper than Saliba. I think it's 0.6 cheaper than Saliba. I think Saliba is 6 or 5.5 and Gabriel is 4.9. And I think Gabriel is just worth the price by itself. I think even if they were pretty similar price, I think I would still sort of prefer Gabriel. I just think he has better goal threat. I think he has, the bonus potential is about the same, but I think he has slightly higher goal threat, and I don't think he's going to be rested that many games either. People are really worried about Gabriel being rotated and stuff, but the reason that he got rested was because they had an easy match and they figured they could survive without him, and they need him for the more important matches coming up. So that could also happen to Saliba in the future. So I don't really think Gabriel is that much less nailed than Saliba in the first place, and I think he's also just a better FPL prospect in general. So before the season started, they were the same price, 5.0, and everyone went for Gabriel and weren't too happy to go with Saliba. Those of us that actually got the early team news that Gabriel was benched in the first game week. But yeah, I think Gabriel is pretty nailed in the team. I think he's a really important player for Arsenal, and I think he has significant goal threat, and he's going to get that 15-pointer that he gets every single season. That's going to come up in one of these games now. Really good fixtures as well. Wolves at home, Luton away. Aston away is not the best. Brighton at home, probably not the best for free clean sheets either, potentially. But Arsenal are also a team that could keep clean sheets in any game. That's why potentially we might double up on their defense, as you might see in this wildcard draft. But yeah, Gabriel is my favorite defender. I've always been a huge fan of his, and I think he's still really, really, really good value. So yeah, I think you should go with Gabriel Magalhaes in your defense. Next up, we have Heung-min Son, and he's actually moved up from last week. I know a lot of people are kind of worried about Son. He has blanked in 3 game weeks in a row now. And some people are looking to sell him, potentially for Mbeumo, potentially for Saka, I've seen. I think Son is better than Saka for sure. I think this past game as well against Aston Villa, I think it was really encouraging as someone who was kind of unsure about Son before the game. He had so many chances, and we've talked a lot about, or at least FPL content creators have talked a lot about potential offsides and stuff, and I think it's super valid. The fact that they were really close, like offsides are just like pretty much happenstance. Like it's really close if it's going to be a goal or not. We saw that with Watkins' goal, especially, which was like millimeters between it. But I think Son, if he was slightly more lucky, he would have had a monster haul against Aston Villa, and at that point, no one would be looking to sell him. But I guess with 3 blanks in a row and then Man City away, it sort of makes sense on paper. But I think Son is just a fantastic asset, and it looks like Spurs are just going to keep going and be that offensive minded team that are going to score a lot of goals. They've been just a little bit unlucky lately offensively after they were kind of lucky at the start of the season. So I still think Son is going to perform really well and score a lot of goals. West Ham at home in the Game Week 15 fixture as well. I know as a West Ham fan that he keeps scoring against West Ham, so I think that's going to happen again. And then like not the best fixtures after that, but I think Son is just a really good player to have in general, and a lot of us have a lot of value in him as well. So I think he's just a player that's worth keeping, especially if you've had him for a long time. So yeah, Son for me is still a really good option, and yeah, I want to have him in my squad if I was wildcarding this moment, and I do have him in my squad myself, and I'm not looking to sell him either. So yeah, I think Son is a really good pick, and I don't think you should sell him at this point. Next up, we have also Cole Palmer, another midfielder. He is way cheaper than Son, and he has really good fixtures as well. Palmer is also not like the most like nailed asset. Like he's not going to score every week. We don't really expect that either for his price. He's the penalty taker though, and it seems like he's going to play pretty much every game for Chelsea. Chelsea are just really hard to gauge. Like you don't really know what type of Chelsea team you're going to see. They played fantastic football and got 4-4 against Man City, and then they get destroyed 4-1 against Newcastle. So it's just really hard to see what Chelsea team we get. But for the price Palmer is, the very cheap price that he is, I think it's 5.3 now. That's just fantastic value for a penalty taker for a team that is playing attacking football and producing a lot of chances in general. So I think Palmer is just a really simple pick as well, just to give you that extra bit of money as well to move around in other positions, which we're going to see eventually with this wildcard team. So Cole Palmer, penalty taker, pretty nailed. Pretty decent underlying stats as well, like nothing like crazy, no crazy numbers there, nothing like Mbeumo and Son and Salah in that regard, but he still has decent numbers, and he's on penalties, which is fantastic for him as well. So yeah, he's also another great pick. All 4 midfielders so far have been penalty takers, and Haaland as well as the penalty taker for Man City. So a lot of penalty takers, because that is very viable currently, because there are a lot of penalties given now, it seems like, in the Premier League. Next up, we have Darwin Núñez. He's not a penalty taker. He plays for the same team as Salah, so he's never going to take pens for them. But I think Darwin is just going to be the starting striker now for Liverpool. And considering their fixtures and also Darwin's form, especially for Uruguay, I think he's going to score a lot of goals. He has like that potential like 15, 18 point type of game in him. And playing against Fulham and Sheffield United in the next 2 is pretty much a really good chance for him to score and do really well in those fixtures. So I'm going to give him at least these 2 fixtures. If he blanks in both of those games, maybe it's time to ship him out. But I think Darwin has a lot of potential in these games. He's a really good striker in terms of movement and stuff. The finishing leaves a little bit to be desired a couple times, but I still think Darwin is a really, really good pick. Not the worst in terms of price either, so I think he just makes a lot of sense as your second striker next to Haaland. Darwin, I think he's going to score a lot of points in the next 2 game weeks, but if he doesn't, it's easy to sell him on for other potential strikers that are really good as well. So there are a lot of options in the forward areas, and I think Darwin is one of the better out of them. So that's why he's in the team as well. Next up, we have another Liverpool player, and that's Kostas Tsimikas. And this is pretty much just indicative of how bad the defenders currently are, because Tsimikas is not really like super nailed. We have some issues with Tsimikas. He got rested or didn't start in one of the league games not too long ago. I was actually really close to selling him in my own team, but then he came back a week later against Brentford and got 2 assists, clean sheet, 15 points, and was just fantastic. And it seems like now he's going to be the preferred Liverpool player. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Europa League to see if he plays in that game or not. If Joe Gomez plays that game, I think Tsimikas is going to be nailed to start in the Fulham game, which is going to be fantastic. So yeah, Tsimikas just has so much high upside, so I think it's really nice to chase that high upside. And he's also like not the most expensive player either, so you can afford better players on your team. So I think Tsimikas is still a really good option. We also have the thing with Robertson coming back potentially from injury at some point, but I still think he's going to be closer to coming back around the New Year time. So that's going to be a lot of game weeks, because there are going to be game weeks coming thick and fast now. So I think Tsimikas is going to play most of these games, especially seeing as he has been rested sort of in the past as well. The past few game weeks, I think he is the preferred option, especially in those fixtures where they are expected to attack as well. I think against Fulham and Sheffield United, he could just attack and get potentially assists and potentially even a goal. If he could provide that would be crazy. So yeah, Tsimikas is still a really good pick, so I really like him as my second defender in this weekly wildcard draft. Let's move on to the third striker in this draft, and that is Alexander Isak, who is back fit, and Wilson is not fit, and that has basically been a rule this season for me. Or at least before the start of the season, I said if either Wilson or Isak gets injured for a long time, I'm going to buy the other one, because they're going to be nailed in a really good attack for a really cheap price. And Isak has provided the goods so far as well. He scored against Chelsea. He scored in the Champions League against PSG. He's just looking like he's in really good form at the moment. And Newcastle are also in really good form, especially at home. So this Man United at home fixture, I think, is a really good fixture for Isak. So this could be a really good opportunity for you guys if you're using a wildcard this week to get someone like Isak who has that fixture where a lot of people won't probably touch him, because he is playing Man United, who have kept 3 clean sheets in a row. But if you looked at the Everton Man United game, you can see how Man United are susceptible to conceding goals. So I think Isak is going to be a really good player in this game, and I think beyond that as well. Everton away, we saw what Man United could do against Everton away. I think Isak could easily score there. Spurs as well, like we mentioned with Haaland, maybe not in the best moment defensively. They are playing centre-backs like Ben Davies and Emerson Royal, because they have Mick van de Ven out for a long time, Romero out for a little bit more, probably not too long, so he's probably back for the game against Isak, but still, that's also a decent game. And then Fulham at home is an absolutely fantastic game as well for Isak, who's going to get a couple more game weeks after that as well before Wilson comes back, because there are so many game weeks in December. So yeah, Isak is also another fantastic pick. I think there are several other good candidates in attack. Potentially Nkunku when he comes back from injury, but he's still out for a little bit more. So I think he's someone that you could look into getting potentially for either Darwin or Isak eventually if either of them don't perform. But I still think they are really good picks for the next few game weeks. So Isak is another player that I'm really excited about, and yeah, I really wish I had him in my own team as well. Number 10, we have Pedro Porro. Speaking of players that I wish I had in my own team and players that I have stupidly sold in the last few game weeks, I had a decision to sell either Udogie or Pedro Porro, and I went for keeping Udogie because I had him from game week 1, had a lot of value tied into him, and I felt like I was just going to get the cheaper defender when they had pretty tough fixtures coming up. But looking at Pedro Porro's fixtures, especially after these 4 fixtures as well, even though these fixtures are decent when it comes to I'm probably not decent when it comes to defensive data, but Pedro Porro could get points in either of these games, basically, apart from Man City probably. But yeah, I think they have decent fixtures, but especially after these 4 fixtures, they're going to get a really nice run of fixtures for a long time, and I think Pedro Porro is someone that you want to have for that fixture run. He's so attacking, he's on all set pieces for Spurs, which gives him a couple of assists here and there, like he did against Aston Villa last time, where his corner got into the box and went to Giovanni Lo Celso, who scored a really nice goal. So I think Pedro Porro is just a really good option when he's on set pieces. He's also a decent goal threat and assist threat from open play as well. The last 13 games, or last 12 games, I think, last season, he got 3 goals and 3 assists for Spurs. So that's just fantastic output. So I think Pedro Porro is just someone that I really like the look of, and especially seeing as no defenders or no teams seem to be keeping clean sheets at the moment, you might as well go with like the most attacking sort of player in one of the more attacking teams like Pedro Porro. So I really like him as a prospect as well. So he's another player that I would look to potentially bring into my own team. I might sell Medicash myself to get Pedro Porro, but probably not this game week. I could probably wait a game week for me to do that. But on a wildcard, you could definitely just get him and just stash him for this game, because you could pick up some decent backup defenders, as we'll potentially get to see in this team as well. Number 11, we have a goalkeeper, and that is David Raya. I've gone with David Raya now. I have ditched Sam Johnston, who hasn't really been performing lately. David Raya is going to be the starting goalkeeper for Arsenal for the foreseeable future. He didn't play against Brentford because that is his parent club. He couldn't play in that game. But now he's going to be back, and he is just a really good goalkeeper for a really good defensive team in Arsenal. So I think Raya is probably the standout goalkeeper currently. He is priced at 4.9, which is quite expensive, but at the same time, it's better, I think, than having the rotating goalkeepers like we mentioned before the season. A lot of people were not too happy about having like rotating 4.5 goalkeepers, but now all of a sudden it seems like it's sort of back. I see a lot of people considering getting Sanchez and Areola and switching between those two guys. But for the same price, you can have Raya and like a cheap backup goalkeeper and have Raya just play every game. And I think that's better, to be honest. And it's also just better for peace of mind as well, because you just don't really want to see your bench goalkeeper get a lot of points. So yeah, just having David Raya in every game seems like a good tactic, especially when he has those good fixtures that he has against Wolverhampton, Luton and Brighton coming up in 3 out of the next 4 fixtures. So yeah, David Raya seems like the best goalkeeper to me, and he's worth it in this team, and we have that extra bit of funds, I guess, to bring him in. But there are some decent 4.5, 4.6 type of options. Sanchez, like I mentioned, could potentially be a good pick. Chelsea have some pretty good fixtures coming up, especially after the Brighton and Man United games. So he could also be a decent option, but I think Raya is worth a slightly more premium price than what Sanchez is worth. Raya is also just a flat-out much better goalkeeper than Sanchez as well, so that also counts for something. Number 12, we have Jamal Lascelles. He keeps his spot from last time around. I still think he's a decent pick, especially seeing as Sven Botman is still out with an undisclosed injury, or not undisclosed, but sort of like unknown injury. We're still not sure when he's going to be back, and it's, like I said previously, with so many game weeks coming up now in short contention, he is probably going to be out for a couple more game weeks, Botman, and that means Lascelles is going to play every game. He showed his goal threat last time around against Chelsea as well, so he has that going for him. He has the price going for him. He's really cheap. Newcastle are a really good defense, and they have decent fixtures. So I think Lascelles is a pretty simple pick, especially seeing as he will save you so much money to bring in the likes of Isak, for example, and Darwin up front, having those 3 forwards, which is really good. So yeah, Lascelles is still a really good pick as well, even though he's on sort of borrowed time. We don't really know when Botman is going to be back, but when Botman is back, he's going to take the place of Lascelles, and Lascelles is not going to play anymore. So it is a bit of a risk long term, but short term, I think Lascelles is really good, especially for that price that he is. Next up, we have a final midfielder, and it's going to be Thomas Souček. We need to save some money to get the likes of Isak and stuff, and having Pedro Porro in defense and Raya in goal. So Souček is the pick in midfield, the final pick in midfield. He's going to be on the bench most game weeks, I think, but he's also shown his goal threat again in the last few games for West Ham. I think especially now with Michail Antonio being out, I think Souček is going to be pushed forward to score goals, be that decisive player in the box. West Ham really need it because they don't really have much else to play with, seeing as Antonio was out with an injury. We've also seen Kudus be an amazing like orchestrator for West Ham as well. He's a really good assist man. He could pass like he did to Souček last time around against Burnley. And Souček is just really good in the box, whether it's with his head or whether it's with his feet. He's really good at finishing as well. So yeah, Souček is just like a really nice cheap option, I think. Someone you could bench, someone you could potentially rotate between him and Palmer, I guess, as well. Like they are sort of like the cheaper attackers in this team. But yeah, I think Souček is really good value. I think he's going to play a lot more offensively the next few games. And he also has the ward-prowess factor when it comes to free kicks and corners that could be just curled onto the head of Souček, who can score easily. So yeah, I think Souček is a fun little differential-ish pick there as well to have in the team. The final defender is going to be Jared Brantwaite still. Kind of worrying to see them concede 3 goals against Man United. Seeing Man United sort of like score goals with ease against Everton is not really the best advertisement for Brantwaite, but I still think Everton are a decent team. They don't have the best fixtures, but Brantwaite is also really cheap, and I think he's the most nailed and like the best 4.0 defender currently. You could go with someone like Taylor for Burnley. Charlie Taylor, he scored a goal not too long ago, but he still only has 15 points so far this season because Burnley just can't keep a clean sheet. So So I think I trust Everton's defense more than Burnley's defense, even though Burnley have better fixtures. So yeah, for me, Brantford is the better defender there to have. He also it's like a Kabore potentially, who's also like a decent 4.0 defender. But apart from that, I can't really see much value in the cheap defenders. So I think Brantford is the best for that price, and he's a decent pick, and especially someone you mostly stash on the bench. He's someone that could come in a game where you need him and provide some points, I guess. But yeah, I think Brantford is a decent pick, but not entirely sold on him. But he's the best of what we have available for the funds that we have available as well. And that could also be said for Strakosha, who's the final pick and the second goalkeeper. He's basically just the best 3.9 goalkeeper currently in the game. Potentially, you do have, I can't pronounce his first name, Cayman Kelleher or whatever. I know that video came out where he pronounced his own name and it sounded really weird compared to what I expected. But yeah, the goalkeeper for Liverpool might be Kelleher going forward because Alisson might have an injury. He is potentially out for a couple of weeks. That is the rumor, at least. There's nothing confirmed yet, so don't take that for granted. Don't sell Alisson if you have him currently, because he might be back for the next game. We don't really know. But potentially Kelleher might be starting for Liverpool. But as you can see in this team, I already have Chimikas, Salah, and Darwin. Can't have 4 Liverpool players, so that means Strakosha is the best available 3.9 goalkeeper. And there's also, I'm not really the biggest fan of using, that's why I'm sort of like not 100% sold on Raya either. I don't really like using a spot amongst the top 6 clubs on the goalkeepers, because I feel like goalkeepers are sort of capped on like 6 to 7, 8 points. Pretty much, they can't really get those big hauls unless they get like a fluky penalty save or something like that. So I prefer to not have like the bigger clubs, or the goalkeepers from the bigger clubs really. So yeah, not 100% sold on Raya in that regard, but just seeing how good Arsenal are and just being really interested in doubling up on them and feeling that Raya is the best pick there. I just gone with him as the starting goalkeeper, and then Strakosha is basically the backup for 3.9 because I think he could potentially play some games. Flecken has been struggling a bit. Flecken hasn't really been the best goalkeeper either this season. I think Strakosha has a lot of value. He's shown in the Serie A for Lazio that he's a really good goalkeeper as well, so he could potentially play, but at the same time he's the 15th pick for a reason. Don't really have much faith in him. He's just going to be on the bench basically all weeks because Raya is a better goalkeeper in FPL. Finally, we have to talk about the 4 players that have dropped out since last time, and one of them is, speaking of the goalkeepers, Sam Johnston. Crystal Palace have just not looked that good defensively the last few game weeks. I don't know what it is exactly, but it might just be a blip. Maybe they'll be back to like winning form defensively, so maybe it's a bit premature to dump Johnston, but at the same time, Crystal Palace's fixtures are getting worse and worse by the day, or by the game week, I should say. So Johnston just drops out for that sake. I think Raya is just a better goalkeeper currently, and I think Sanchez for Chelsea is also probably a better goalkeeper currently than Johnston. So he drops out. Because Saka kind of controversially drops out as well. I just didn't have the money for him here. I feel like Isak is just a better pick currently, because I think he has shown more lately. Saka he keeps getting the assist every single game. He keeps getting those crosses to the back post. He's done that several times this season, but I don't know if that's going to continue like all the time. Like his underlying numbers are really, really bad, and that's always been the case with Saka, to be fair, but he used to have more goal threat than he has now. Now he's basically relegated to having assists and then penalties, and that's it. Arsenal don't really look that dynamic going forward. So yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Saka, and like I said, I need the money to get Isak. So I prefer having Souček and Isak rather than having Saka and Archer, basically. Having 2 playing players as well is a nice mix there. Even if Isak gets injured or gets rested, potentially Souček might come in and play for him instead. So I prefer that combo rather than Saka and Archer. So you save a little bit of money there from going from Saka to Isak, or de facto Saka to Souček and then Archer to Isak. You save a bit of money there. Basically, or it's about the same, but whatever. And then finally, the final player that has dropped out is Reece James. I sort of had him as a punt last week because I sort of like his fixtures going forward, and it is kind of harsh to drop him out, but at the same time, I don't really have the money to have him in. You could potentially have him rather than Pedro Porro, but at least Pedro Porro will play this game week, even though he plays Man City, because Reece James is going to be suspended. But after that, I still think Reece James is a viable option, but it's just the fact that he gets injured. He just seems to be an FPL troll. It just never goes right. So just staying away from James for now. And that's pretty much it for the weekly wildcard drafts. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a team sort of similar to this, or that you're trying to work yourself towards a team sort of similar to this. And yeah, that's basically it for me. So thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time. Bye.